Hi there, welcome to Floating in Dreams. This is Declutter Regrets eyeshadow palette collection from 2017. We're going back in time. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. In today's video, I have a quick overview of my makeup collection as it stood in 2017. I decluttered my makeup collection before I moved into this place, and I have been filming declutters ever since. I'm currently in the midst of showing you my makeup declutter for 2025, so that is definitely something that you can look forward to. I've done 4 out of the 6 videos so far. There are 2 installments left, which is lips and eyeshadow palettes. And today I thought we could have a bit of fun and look back at my eyeshadow palette collection from 2017. This is such a throwback. There are so many things here. And I definitely think that I filmed this video before sort of like the online thing I'm doing really sort of took off. So I think that this was when my makeup collection was far closer to like a normal consumer collection than anything else. And I liked trying out eyeshadow palettes, but I wasn't sort of like making it my whole identity. Like right now, what I'm doing is that once a month, I review a couple of new palettes, and I definitely wasn't doing that at the time. So my makeup collection was, or my eyeshadow palette collection, I should say, was a lot more curated. So let's see what we have going on here. The video itself is only 14 minutes. So since I think my eyeshadow palette declutter alone is going to be like over an hour, there was a lot less here. So let's see what we have going on. So right off the bat in this overview, I can see quite a few things that some of them may still be in my house actually, because I do still have some older makeup that I either keep in a makeup memory box, but a lot of this has also been decluttered. I know that for sure. So yeah, I can definitely see a couple of very, very old school Urban Decay here. And I think this may actually be the first overlay. I think we're going to get another spread in a second. So I have a palette of singles here, which is empty. So I think here at the time, like I used to keep all of my MAC singles in there, and now I was just using it as an empty palette. I think this Morphe thing, I don't even remember what this was called. I don't even know how I got into this. I've never tried a lot of Morphe eyeshadow. So even though in 2017 we were in the midst of the, what was it, the 032, whatever, 32O, that was the name of the palette. Everybody loved that thing. And I just wasn't really a big fan of Morphe. I never got the hype. I didn't really buy into them. I've only owned a couple of Morphe palettes in my lifetime. Especially those big ones I always passed up on because I knew that these overly large palettes were my jam. And then we're talking about the Naked Eye from Too Faced. So I believe the Natural Eyes, which was the brown toned one, was everyone's favorite, but I preferred this gray tone one. I had this in my collection for a very long time, I remember, but sadly no longer there. But I've loved cool tones from the start. Here I'm holding up the Urban Decay Vegan palette, I think it was called. The screw became undone very, very easily, so the packaging was annoying. This did have some classic Urban Decay shades in. This was, I think, the first eyeshadow palette from Urban Decay I ever bought. It's the only one I decluttered. I think I'm getting rid of it in this video, that I kind of regret I no longer have, because in a way, I now feel my Urban Decay collection is no longer, you know, complete. I still have all the Urban Decay eyeshadow palettes I've owned in my lifetime. It's the only brand I ever truly collected. So that's why I like to hang on to them. And I wished I had hung on to this vegan palette from Urban Decay, because then I would have had everything I once upon a time owned. But at the time, I couldn't know that, and I was really sort of decluttering here to have a lesser load to move into this place. So that was my reason for getting rid of it here. I wasn't really using it. I remember it being very sparkly, very fallouty, and very sparse. So it wasn't exactly the kind of quality I liked. I liked some of my later Urban Decay palettes a lot better. And I think this is a dupe from Too Faced. It's the chocolate bar, but by Makeup Revolution, because I didn't like the look of the original chocolate bar, so I got the Makeup Revolution one to try it out. Later on, I bought the original Too Faced chocolate bar, and this, I kind of knew it wasn't really for me. It was a bit deep, but why I ever bought the original, I don't know. but I ended up decluttering. But I used to have so many of these Makeup Revolution palettes at one point in time. This one I loved. This one I loved, especially when my makeup collection was a little bit smaller. This palette for Makeup Revolution, I've forgotten the name of it. I don't know what it was called. It had these really small dime-sized pan, similar to like some of the ColourPop palettes we see nowadays. And I really, really liked it. It had a lot of shades in, but it was a very powdery texture, and I just found there were other better quality eyeshadow palettes later on. I'm not sure what I'm holding up here, what this is. Oh, I think that's also Makeup Revolution. This is another Makeup Revolution palette. I believe it's a dupe for something as well. I don't remember anymore whether it was a dupe or not, but yeah, that's definitely going on there. And I'm not sure what I'm grabbing here. Oh, I still had my 120 color palette. This is how I got started with makeup, y'all. This is such a throwback. I had this rainbow palette, and then I also had a like 82 pan little like neutral palette. Well, I say little, but these are like the Coastal Scent style eyeshadow palettes that everybody was raving about. This is what I started off with. These were some of the first eyeshadows I bought when I got into makeup, were these trays, because it would give me all of the shades I could possibly want to play with. So this is probably why I also didn't buy the Morphe palettes at the time, because I already had these larger palettes that gave me all the shades I feel I needed. But this wasn't by Coastal Scents, because Coastal Scents, to get it here in Europe, was really expensive. So this is how I discovered Boozy Shop, because Boozy Shop is a website I still shop from, but I got it at the time through them, and it was one of the generic brands that did a similar thing to Coastal Scents. This is such a throwback. I didn't even know I had those at this point. Oh, this is such a throwback. Part of me wishes I had kept that around. That would have been so much nostalgia. So much nostalgia. Then we're doing the Naked 2 and Naked Basic. So these are the little 6-pan palettes. I really like these. I nearly hit pan on especially the Naked Basics 2. That was a classic. I used it so much, but the rubberized packaging got really sticky. I had some Charlotte Tilbury quads here. I passed one of them on to my mom. I had Dolce Vita and another one. I didn't love these in the end. I felt like for the price point, I don't love the quality. There's just better quality at a lower price point for sure. I used to think that I needed expensive makeup, which is why I have all this Dior and Chanel stuff. That was a limited edition, I remember that, but I wasn't wearing it because of the red. This I kept around for a long time. It was called Night Butterfly, I remember that. This was Twilight, which was blues, and then I had a pinky one, which was also a limited edition one, and it was very Y2K coded, but I like that. This is another Dior palette that I bought traveling. And I only used one shade, so I think I got rid of it here. But it was all like the same satin finish, which I didn't like, and those spoolies always annoyed me. These are NARS shadows. These were 2 duos. I think one of them was called Corduroy, if I'm not mistaken. And I bought these. I remember buying these distinctly on a trip to France because I wanted to get Tom Ford. But getting 2 duos from NARS was as expensive as getting 1 quad from Tom Ford. And Tom Ford was not only really expensive when I was able to swatch them in store, I didn't like the feel of those shadows, so I went with NARS instead. Haven't seen those 2 duos in years. I don't know if I'm getting rid of them in this video, but I definitely got rid of those at some point. I no longer own those. This MU Makeup Designery palette, this was one of the first things I ever bought because I saw an influencer talking about it. I don't even remember her channel name. She quit doing YouTube years ago, but this was way back, way back in the day. And it was this really pretty sort of classic neutrally quad. It had 1 shimmer and 3 mattes, but I have something similar nowadays from Kaleidos, I'm sure. So this is, again, very much a throwback. It came with the eyeshadows, and then it came with a lipstick as well. And I believe Makeup Designery is actually a makeup school in New York, and they sold their products. It was the first time I ordered something online from the US. And this is a Dior little trio that I loved with these cocky shades. I remember buying it with like a gift card I had at some point. Again, very nostalgic. I still have it because it has really pretty packaging. Some Chanel quads. I really, really like these, but I don't love the quality of Chanel eyeshadow. But there were some unique shades in here. I never reached for them. And I kept some of them around for like one single shade, and then I had it by indie brands, so I didn't need to keep it around. So a lot of this is now decluttered. Ah, see, I knew we would get more. Let me have a look at this overview. So many fun drugstore things. Oh, wow. Oh, wow, oh, wow, oh, wow. A lot of S's and Catrice. That hasn't changed. Some MUA in there. I still love MUA. I told you when I was reviewing the Illusionist palette that I had MUA in the past. So many UK drugstore brands. Also some things I picked up on trips in the US, I think. The Wet n Wild stuff and that big L'Oreal palette. Yeah, this is very much a throwback. Very much a throwback. This is where he got started. This is where he come from. Let me have a look at what we're getting rid of. I don't think I have any of these still in my house. So that just shows you that, you know, your makeup preferences just change. We're getting started with the Kiko quad. This was a cranberry shade quad, and this is why I have said for years how I don't love Kiko eyeshadow palettes. This was good though. It was a good baked formula, and I actually bought it because Lisa Eldridge recommended these shades at some point. These little Rimmel things I really, really enjoyed, but they were very difficult to use, especially the one with the British flag on it, because you couldn't really get your brushes into the little divots, so that was annoying. Catrice, this mustard duo that I had, really pretty, but I never wore that. I love a good mustard yellow though, but I have other things. These things I think I'm getting rid of in this video. These were by Collection, a UK drugstore brand, but these were really similar to the Urban Decay Naked Basics. They were essentially dupes, so I wasn't really reaching for these a whole lot. So, and I believe these were pretty powdery too, so they weren't like the best of the best makeup quality you could get. Milani, the Everyday Essentials, I think these were called, and everybody loved these. And what happened to Milani after this, nobody knows, but they reformulated and their eyeshadow quality was never this good ever again. So, yeah, I decluttered it because it was too orange for my liking. So, this MUA palette was a dupe for the Urban Decay Naked 3. I don't remember the name. It was like Elysium, I think. And this was my travel palette for a very long time. I didn't want to travel with my Urban Decay Naked 3, so I traveled with this one instead. It gave me the exact same shades, but because it was cheaper, I didn't mind it if it would break, so that's why we had this one for a long time. And it was really decent eyeshadow. I still think MUA has some good drugstore eyeshadow. Another MUA palette here. I'm not sure what this one was called. I don't even remember owning this. But it's essentially really light, cool tones. Some e.l.f. things in here as well. I remember these ones from e.l.f. I think I bought these when I was in the US. Something like nude, whatever. These were going viral for some time and I really wanted to test them out. Those were nice though. The e.l.f. things were nice. This by NYX, I know I decluttered that. I used to own a lot of NYX at some point in my makeup collection before sort of like other drugstore brands started doing better eyeshadow. I had a lot of NYX. I especially had a lot of their singles. Catrice, this little quad, I wanted to declutter so many times and then I didn't. It was called Yellow Subtle Green and the name alone was excellent for me. It was cocky greens with a pop of yellow. Really, really pretty, stunning formula. I love that thing. Catrice has not done anything like it ever again, which is a bit of a shame. This little Essence thing, I remember this being Essence because it was a limited edition, like Tales of the Orient or something like that. This was really pretty, but not my shades. Not my shades. This was by Max Factor, a really lovely thing. Here's the thing though, I believe you can still buy this palette. It was called Cappuccino Nudes. I remember that. Really nice neutrals, but again, I have neutrals a million times over, so I got rid of those. Then I have these four Catrice eyeshadow palettes. A rose, a matte, a neutral, whatever. Catrice still does this. Palettes like this that come in a little like family of palettes that are styled in a similar way, but with different undertones and textures in them. They've been doing it for years. I review them on my channel all the time. They're currently doing ones called the Tiny Treasures, just in case you want to know. But yeah, I've been trying these palettes from Catrice for absolute yonks. And some of these I loved. I loved. But the quality of these is always a bit wishy-washy, even between the palettes in the line. Like, some of them are really good. Others are just not that good, so here I'm also getting rid of some. And I think this was the previous rendition or the new rendition, which I didn't like as much. So they were like, essentially they repackage it, change some of the shades around, but they're still doing the same thing. Like, Catrice has been doing like a rosy and a nude palette for a decade at least, and they just discontinue them, repackage them, and then with one of the updates, like every 2 years we get a new range. This Hello Autumn thing from Essence was really nice. It was a limited edition collection. But again, I had too many things that were similar, so I didn't love it for that reason. Then we have the, this was a line from Essence where you could build your own palette. This was all the rage at the time. Some really stunning shades in there, but I wasn't reaching for it, so I ended up decluttering this in the end as well. Wet n Wild, this was Petal Pusher. Everybody went gaga for Comfort Zone, but I like the purples in this just a little bit better. It wasn't great, but I did like it at the time. I remember that a lot. This is a little Essence thing again, very metallic-y, but not that great. Like, there's a lot of Essence and Catrice here from like limited edition collections, and I sometimes get questions still from people like, hey, where are your, are you going to be trying some more Essence and Catrice in their limited editions? But because it's always like the turnover rate of those palettes is so quick that I cannot possibly keep up with the reviews, and the quality is always like so-so, and the quality hasn't gone through like a massive change in the past couple of years. So that's why I don't try out a lot of Essence and Catrice limited editions anymore, because it's just a waste of money for me anyways. Like, I know it would probably do really well content-wise, like so many people would be watching those videos, I know it will, but come declutter time, I would always get rid of them like instantly, which is not the kind of channel I want to be. So that's why I stopped reviewing so many Essence and Catrice limited editions. Let me see what we're moving into right now. I can't even, oh, this is a NYX palette. That's pretty, but again, very light. It didn't have very good color payoff. I remember that much. And then the blush nudes from Maybelline. Oh, that's such a throwback. I think this is the only decent eyeshadow palette Maybelline has come out with in like the past 15 years. It was okay. It wasn't wowing. It was okay. But again, like that Urban Decay Naked 3 sort of vibe. This was by Beauty Creations. Is that still a brand? I remember buying it. No, Beauty UK I now see on the front. This was a UK-based drugstore brand at the time, and it looked pretty. Then I have these two. They're essentially dupes. The big one is the US version. The small one is what we got in Europe. And that's one of the things I loved doing at the time. Like, I would go to the US like once every 2 to 3 years and just find a Walmart and try to buy all the makeup. That's how I sort of got started with makeup, you could say. So that way I got to try a lot of the viral stuff. This was, oh, that was an Essence palette that wasn't any good. Very patchy, very powdery, hardly any color payoff. It was another limited edition collection. But the color story spoke to me. Then we have this Wet n Wild guy, this sort of like rainbow palette. I remember having that around for a while, but bright colors scared me for a very long time. I'm wearing a purple look today, so I'm feeling a lot more confident. I remember back in 2018 or 2019, I sort of gave myself the task to wear more colorful eyeshadow, because up until that point, I was only wearing neutrals and then like a bright lip, but I wasn't really into wearing a lot of colorful eyeshadow. This is by The Body Shop. I really, really like that rose gold. It was really pretty. The Body Shop used to do some pretty good makeup at the time, but that brand is a bit shaky when it comes to what they're still doing. And here we have something from Famous by Sue Moxley. I also had a highlighter by them, I think. This was really pretty. It was the first time I ever owned a duochrome. It's one of those blue-brown sort of pigments. It was the first duochrome ever in my makeup collection. Yes, that was a good one, but the shades itself, like the palette itself, just didn't come together. This was another e.l.f. one. I think this was called the Sunset palette with all shimmers. And then I still have this little Essence Guy, which really wasn't all that special. And then I think the last thing here is, I don't even know what that is. Does it even have a brand name on it? Oh, it was Rimmel, I think. I think that's a Rimmel palette from way back in the day. I used to love cool tones. Even back then, I was really going for the cool tones. But there were a lot more cool tones available at the time from the drugstore, I feel, because these were old drugstore palettes, and there were a lot of cool toned options in there, whereas nowadays everything seems to be warm. Oh well. But yeah, we have this overlay, or this overview here of all of my sleek palettes. I used to be an avid sleek fan back when they were like all the rage. I still have one sleek palette as a memento. I think it's the oldest one that I have. That was like my Urban Decay Naked 2 before I ever owned the Urban Decay Naked 2. I think I kept these all at the time. I remember filming videos in this house with my sleek palette collection. So I'm pretty sure that none of these are gonna go, maybe one of them. But I think most of these I'm keeping. And I don't think I'm opening them even up. And I'm pretty sure at this point I already had some Urban Decay. So where did those go? Maybe I was like, I'm not going to declutter them anyways, so I didn't show them in the video. Okay, so that video also just ends. I'm not even thanking you for watching the video. So I really thought I had more. But where did those go? I probably didn't show you those. Like I said, I think I didn't show them because I wasn't going to declutter them. I think that's what I probably did. So I probably did a eyeshadow palette collection right before it, and I was like, oh, just watch that, because I did see that little pop-up at the start of the video. So I probably did that, so that's why this video was a lot shorter. But yeah, those were some of the eyeshadow palettes that I used to own way back in the day. There was a lot more drugstore. I also think that at the time, the drugstore did more eyeshadow, or at least I was more focused on drugstore eyeshadow. But like I said, like that Max Factor palette I showed you, I saw that in store as recently as a couple of weeks ago. So I also feel that within the drugstore realm, we haven't had a lot of innovation when it comes to eyeshadow palettes. I think that's just been one of the reasons why I haven't been testing out so many drugstore eyeshadows. There's just not been this like surge around drugstore eyeshadow palettes like it was at the time. Like those e.l.f. palettes I had, the sleek palettes I had, the Milani, the Wet n Wild. I remember owning the Soft and Sultry from Milani at some point in time. It must have been later than this one even. And those things went viral. But I haven't really seen drugstore makeup going viral in terms of eyeshadow palettes in years now. Curious to see what happened there. Because, like, I think eyeshadow palettes, like, as popular as they were a couple of years ago, I don't think eyeshadow palettes are still as popular as they were. I feel like blush and lips is a lot more where a lot of hype is surrounding beauty brands at the minute, and skincare, of course. So there's definitely been a shift. So maybe that's why drugstore brands aren't really, like, updating their eyeshadows as much as they did. Or if they did, the quality just isn't as good. So, but yeah, a lot of drugstore. There was a lot of drugstore there. So yeah, if that's something that you're sometimes missing on this channel, then that may be why, because I've tried and tested them all, and even though some of them can be nice, I very often just have nicer things from more expensive or indie brands for sure. So that goes into what I decide to keep and whatnot. Like, if I just like the quality better, I tend to lean towards that a little bit more. So thank you so very much for joining me here today. Thumbs up this video if you liked it, and subscribe because I would love to see you back here. I am in the midst of showing you all of the declutters for 2025, and it's a massive one. I think I nearly cut my my entire makeup collection in half. So stay tuned to see the rest of that, but I do make regular content, like videos like this where I just sit down and chat with you guys several times a week. So if you'd like to stay tuned for more, then I hope to see you in the next one. Bye-bye.